Today we have the privilege of studying our beloved El Morya's dictation given in 1986, his New Year's message. El Morya is a rare person, one who has tremendous grasp of eternity, you might say. Whenever we work with El Morya, we have a dictionary at our side. It chases us to grasp what he's really saying to us. He starts out this teaching by saying, Chelas of the first ray of God's will, I salute you in the highest of the spectrum of your being, and in the lowest, I salute you in the heart of Christ. I salute you in the soul who has descended to this level of mater. I salute you in the power of the I am that I am. Then he asks the question, how many of you can focus at will at all or one of these points of being? I ask it for a reason. He said, I come to take you then into the lap of the Father. I take you upon my knee, but not over it. But beloved ones, this is not to say that some ought not to receive a New Year's spanking this New Year's Eve. Blessed ones, the sands of the hourglass have run out for this year. I may say to some of you, friend, how camest you in without a wedding garment? I explain to you, beloved, that when you are a soul passed from the screen of life, who must pass through the astral plane, it is then that you require the attainment of instantaneous focalization in the heart of the I Am presence, in the highest and the lowest of self, and in the heart of Christ. The soul in the astral plane, who is not able to navigate out thereof following the change called death, the soul who is unable without the guru or the messenger to make contact with the I Am presence in that moment, is most pitiful indeed. This life and every life, beloved, is given to you with our earnest and most loving assistance, that you might internalize the Word and reach an attainment whereby you may arrive at the door of the Royal Teton whenever called, whenever the sands of your hourglass run out. Some who have long been in the teachings hear of this teaching, make the fateful mistake of considering that they have it under their belt as attainment. Now, beloved, I speak to the child in you, as well as to the ripened Son of God. And as each one of you is seated upon my knee as your Father, I look into your eyes and say, my son, my daughter, my beloved, hear me well. For the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Understand the mystery, then, of the Sacred Heart. Understand, therefore, that I have come to welcome you to my inner retreat, to the inner chambers of my causal body, to my heart of hearts. As I came here this night and found you, so I transmitted to my messenger upon her arrival the condition of each and every soul gathered here, each and every aura, though not seen physically from this spot. And I showed to her how some have come with a mighty fervor indeed, while others, continuing in the way in which they have always continued, have arrived for the prize of the Buddha's pudding, but they have not attended the Buddha, nor nourished him when he would fare faint emerging from the wood. Beloved hearts, it is necessary to remind you at the conclusion of a year that each one stands on his own. Each one must recognize why he has been called, whereunto he has answered, and the meaning of such a dispensation as the lowering into the physical octave of Eden once again. Blessed hearts, Eden is a long, long paradise lost, which has remained in the etheric octave since the sinking of Lemuria and beyond. Understand, beloved, that there is an inner path and a standard to be met. Upon the messenger's arrival here, 2 staff members were disciplined by my direction. Blessed hearts, the path is not to be taken lightly, nor death, nor life, nor opportunity. This year has seen immense victory for this activity. Some have leapt into the sacred fire to find therein an acceleration, a self-transcendence. Inner attainment is not a badge or a visible sign, nor is it noted by intellectual prowess or emotional bubbling over. It is not easy to tell one Chela to the next who has the inner light, who has seen his star. Thus some have come with holy auras, and some with holes in their auras unaware, for they have warmed by Chelas other than themselves, by fires other than those they have built. And they do not tell the difference between their own warmth and the warmth of the mother or the angels present. Beloved ones, the change called death is a very serious initiation. The Brotherhood has attempted to impress upon this student body long year the profound necessity for working while ye have the light. The messenger has preached it again and again, and the teachings are so readily available. In musing upon this dilemma this very week, the messenger knocked at the door of my heart and said, "Why, El Morya, when they have been told again and again, do they not seem to hear, not to respond, not to know the urgency of their own life's hour. I simply reminded her, many are called, few are chosen. Still fewer choose to enter in. But why is this so? Why is it so, Lord? She asked again. Why the teaching has never been more plain? I shall attempt then to tell you why. Perhaps it is the substitution of the messenger's presence for your own. Perhaps it is, beloved, that you mistake words for fiats of light intentionally won. Certainly it is a covering over by yesterday's karma that comes as a wave, almost as a wave of the dirty water of yesterday's laundry. When yesterday's karma is not transmuted, it surely does muddy the spiritual senses, and the ears are waxed dull by it, and the soul has a blurred vision. Blessed ones, it is simply this: the word must be internalized. From our viewpoint, there is no other choice than to ascend at the conclusion of this life that is a realistic choice for you. If you would see all that we see, you would know that this is so. But we spare our chelas much of the unknown, for it is the studied opinion of the Darjeeling Council of the Great White Brotherhood that so much has already been brought to your attention that it is pointless to add unto it greater burdens. For even that which you know has in some instances caused a moment's hopelessness or even depression. Have you been reading what's behind a lot of this stuff that's going on right now in our world? Have you opened your eyes to what's going on underneath the surface of the earth, as well as the secrets under the seas, as well as the secrets in the heavens that mankind is manipulating and working? Have you noticed that big fires in California, for instance, is all done by man, not by accident in nature? Have you noticed that so many things are happening that you can hardly conceive the evil thereof? This is what he's talking about. If you could really know what's going on without your awareness, the thousands of children being wrecked and made slaves, and then killed, and then eaten. You can't even grasp the reality of this. It is so evil. And yet, it's being done all over the world in the highest echelons of church and state. But you and I don't think in these terms, and therefore we have been ignorant of what's really going on until it has gotten so bad that now it's either now or never. And he continues to talk about this. He said, "Blessed ones, it is simply this, The word must be internalized. He said, if you have not dealt with the unknown momentums of Maya, of self and planet, why then should we open the curtain to an unknown horror of death and hell? This is an initiation that has been given from time to time by the Lord Jesus to the saints. Suffice it to say, beloved ones, that those who are somehow in their busyness, in their day's occupations, can set aside present opportunities by a certain nebulous consciousness and absence of focalization, shall we say, and can somehow say, well, if I do not ascend in this lifetime, I will ascend in the next. Blessed ones, realize what a bold statement this is. You see, you are counting upon the human consciousness. You are counting upon a world condition that could change in the twinkling of an eye, where conditions might no longer exist anywhere on a planet on which you have outstanding karma that would allow you to fulfill that path, and where the enlightenment of the day may be on the morrow's another dark age. It is folly to postpone opportunity, for opportunity knocks at the opportune moment for your life stream. Simply because you hear the knock at the door does not mean that the knock will come every day for the next 300,000 years. Do you realize, beloved, that you, in fact, have no guarantee that the seasons will roll, or that the sun will shine in an era as perilous as this one? Thus, beloved, those who have not entered into the fiery coil of the mother's garment in an upward moving wind of the Holy Spirit now find themselves at a serious disadvantage. It is difficult to catch up with an Olympic runner, beloved. Best be informed and move when the winds of Moria move. What I tell you is this: hearts among you have attainment. Other hearts do not. The law is impartial, plays no favorites, and a community of the Holy Spirit is made up of individuals responsible unto God. A community is also a brotherhood and a sisterhood of chelas supporting one another, upholding one another. But this is only until the child may stand on his own 2 feet. When one dare not take the habit of leaning on another's decree momentum or another's momentum, beloved. I come then with some advice for your letter writing to the Karmic Board this night, or an addendum you might write. It is this: that you might yet appeal to have the opportunity in the new year to make up for the lost time of the past year and years and centuries, that you might press between the discs of the minutes and the hours more violet flame and a penetration into the path, into the past. For you see, beloved, with the turning of the year, one door closes and another one opens. What will you do when the door of the new year is 3 steps higher and you have not fulfilled the steps of the last? How will you be overcomers unto the victory, come what may? It is not my desire to make you uncomfortable, and never to cause self-condemnation or an absence of self-worth. I can only tell you that this week the messenger has seen a former keeper of the flame who passed from the screen of life stand statue-like and motionless before the lords of karma to receive the rebuke of each and every one of the 7 members of the karmic board. As though frozen in time as a mother of pearl statue, this one was motionless as death, yet heard every word. When the sands in the hourglass are thus wasted, when so great a salvation and a knowledge has been vouchsafed, beloved ones, do you not understand that for the sin of non-performance, such as an encounter is due? Others have passed from the screen of life, also having this teaching, have crouched and cowered and trembled in fear and some in anger in the astral plane until the messenger unascended and the one ascended should make fiery invocations for the soul to be taken by holy angels to a higher place. The soul, having wasted so many hours in idle dreams, not centered in the true path of the Great White Brotherhood. Blessed ones, I remind you that this is not the Roman Catholic Church, nor the Protestant Church, nor the Jewish synagogue, nor mosques, nor temple, nor Hindu shrine. This is the Great White Brotherhood and the Church Universal and Triumphant. Do not equate former paths as sufficient in the hour of testing. They will fail you, each and every one. Do not attempt to combine the old ways, nor pour the new wine of the everlasting gospel into old bottles. There is too much to do in the exercise of the spoken word and the teachings than to have nostalgia of the old ways. Those old ways can draw you into the astral plane at the moment when you must rise above all the death and hell that is celebrated in one form or another by the religious of every movement. Not that it was the founding principle, but that religion and religious form has degenerated and into the combining of the sympathy of death, the fatalism of death, and even the beauty of death, with the original release of light wherein there was no death at all. You see, when you're in the teachings, when you have internalized the teachings, you begin to realize that there is no death. It's just a matter of leaving the body and taking on. The early Christians really knew this. When they had a death, they would put on a dance. They were all joyous. It was a great conflagration of spirit and matter. And one has just made his exit out, and there was a joy place. But in this day, we are worshipers of death, and therefore when death happens, we go to pieces rather than saying, God bless you. I know you are going higher. And we have our services that assist the angels, moving them on up the way. He says, let us then be lifted up again in the great blue sphere of Himalaya and of Hercules. Many, many times the members of the Brotherhood have come with their dictations, and you have felt that exaltation. The lesson that must be learned is self-watchfulness. How many moments or hours did you retain that centeredness in the causal body, or in the Christ consciousness, or in the I am presence of the Master? How swift was the decay rate when you were subject once again to your mortal terrors, or avarice, or sympathy with the lower order of things, or lust for this and that? How quickly were you overtaken by a spirit of criticism, and so forth? Basically, if you really look at it, it is difficult to come from the high peaks of spirit into the commonness. I have shared with my friends how difficult it is sometimes. You are in the midst of the aura of the Master in the service, and you are raised so high, and then you go out to eat, and you have all the stuff that happens all around you. I've often said, I'd almost rather, after church, just go and sit down and meditate for hours, staying in that aura, rather than going out and getting ambushed, if you want to say it that way, by the lower entities and energies around you. He continues, beloved hearts, the highest levels of consciousness are not sustained for you by us, but they are given unto you that you might have a foretaste of a vibration of attainment, and then gain a co-measurement of your own individual absence of that attainment. For you do not experience this higher consciousness except through the dictations of the ascended masters. The Darjeeling Council has been concerned about the dependencies of chelas in an incorrect way upon the outpouring of the dictations without the follow-up. In the week and days after the dictation, the pursuing of the Master, hanging on to his words, giving intense cause for the binding of all that is within the individual that prevents him from sustaining the aura of the Master, the message, the vibration, and the love of the Master for a 7-day cycle until the next week and the next outpouring. I've often observed people live from one Sunday to the next for the next dictation. But how much have we spent in reliving the dictation that was just given, in understanding? The longer you think of it, the more deeply you can enter into it. And yet some don't like to go back over them. I've had people say, "Oh, I heard that dictation then. I'm interested in something new." And I want to say, have you really understood the dictation? How many times have you read it? How many times have you listened to it? How many times have you been in the aura of the Master since it was given? We shortchange ourselves in our Western ways. We want the shortcuts. Just give it to us and get going. But wait, unless you stop and internalize it and study it and work with it and talk to the Master about it, you haven't got it. He says, we desire to make you like us. Not for you to become dependent upon us. We desire you to know that in this state of transition through the physical octave, you do need our intercession, and we gladly give it. And so does the messenger. But it is for a purpose. It is for the preparation of your solo. It is for the preparation of an instantaneous contact with the Beloved, your I Am presence. I remember so well learning to fly an airplane. In flying an airplane, you have to get to the point where everything is automatic. You cannot think about what's coming next. It has to be just as the Spirit leads you, you move with it. And one of the problems of learning to fly an airplane is bringing it in for a landing. Because if you miss the distances and so on, you have a hard time getting your wheels to get down. You're afraid if you push it too much, it'll hit and then it'll come back up again and then it'll go down and up again. You want to just move it in. And so with that fear that you're going to mess it up, you don't quite ever reach it. And so all at once you're already past midway of the landing strip and you haven't touched down yet. And the instructor will say, if you are going to land the plane, you must touch the ground. Oh, yes, I must touch the ground, but I'm afraid to touch the ground. This is something that he's talking about. You're preparing for your solo. What happens when you die? You go into the astral plane of reference. Are you able, and immediately with your touching, with your ability to hear the I Am presence, are you ready to move right up into the higher realms, or do you get stuck because of the low vibration that you find yourself in? Like going to the lower parts of a city. It doesn't feel good. It isn't where you belong, but you are there. How do you get out of it? That's the question. That's the initiation. That's what he's concerned about. It is for the preparation of your solo. I speak of the Beloved, the mighty I Am presence, he says, and I tell you, if you have not experienced firsthand the breathless, profound, and all-enfolding love of the presence, the warmth, the joy, the communion, the intimacy, the sense of well-being, the self-knowledge that you are forevermore locked into your I Am presence, that though you may make your bed in hell, though you descend to the astral plane, in or out of the body, in life or in death, to balance that old score there, wherever you are, you cannot flee from the presence, because you have, with our assistance, made the contact. And you know when you've made that contact. You know when you're in and when you're out. And you hasten to get back in when you sense that you are out. He continues, I would say, beloved, and I shall make it for the first course of your 14 weeks with me, that the meditation upon the presence, the decrees to the presence, to the pondering and thinking upon the presence, and the love of that person of the Father is the most desperate need. You see the chart? You say the tube of light decree. You call to the beloved. But something has kept you from that profound desire to know the presence face to face, and to pursue it with the hot heat of an intensity that comes from the self-knowledge that as long as I am separate from my God, I am in the gravest dangers in this time-space continuum where I find myself. So I ask the question, how many can at will make the contact with the presence that comes as a feeling of love descending? A feeling so powerful as to exclude all other awareness of a planet. Beloved ones, this can be yours. But you must stop chattering. Stop seeking so many interchanges with others. Let those in the valleys of the world cease then. So much television, so much contact 24 hours a day with outer things going on which take your attention from your presence and make you worry and have that over-concern which makes you incapable of mobilizing your forces to defeat the whole ball of Maya that is before you, the whole ball of illusion. For a moment in every day, you ought to ascend to the heart of the presence, just to know that that love that was and ever has been and ever shall be is greater than all of this. In that moment, knowingness and communion, beloved, there is the perspective, the co-measurement, whereby the fiats offered and given are not given as Don Quixote beating the air, but rather as victors, as the omnipotent one, as the I Am Presence who has descended then into your temple. One moment in the arms of the presence, and your entire life shall change. Your whole life shall be then in the presence of love's great mastery. Blessed ones, our Vita Flame angels are kept very busy transmuting the anxiety with which many of you charge your decrees. Sometimes you are aware of this anxiety, and other times it is simply a fear and doubt that muddies the subconscious stream, the rivers that actually flow into the depths of the electronic belt. It is hard then to remove from the individual the dye and the stain of pride. How many times we have heard, Chelas really want to get into it, so they're shouting, they're screaming their decrees, which totally misses what you're decreeing for. It's all anxiety. It's all emotion. Our decrees must be basic. It must be done with power, but not shouting, not screaming, just with power, tremendous power from the heart. One then in a distant city comes to mind. I have shown that one to the messenger, and the messenger has said, "What can I do to show that one the folly of his pride?" And so I have brought that person and aura closer to the messenger's eye and gaze to let her see for herself that when pride is the stain that stains all of man's being, when it is, as you might say, homogenized throughout, when there is no point of reference within the individual of something apart from that prideful sense, then there is no place where the teacher may thread the eye of the needle. There is no place, no point of entry into the world of the individual to say, "Look, receive the Holy Ghost. Be delivered of your pride." It is like the leopard and his spots. Some are the totality of their human creation. This brings us full circle to the message of Maitreya from last year's conclave, stating that some choose to embody the dweller on the threshold. Excuse me. Some choose to embody the Christ. The choice to the right or to the left is clear. It can be met, it can be dealt with, but beloved, the choice to be in the middle and to think one has chosen the light or the dark, this is the prideful state that goeth before the fall. Call it mediocrity or lukewarmness, call it insensitivity or indifference. Blessed hearts, it is extremely difficult to deliver a serious student on the path or a sometimes student on the path from such a state. For that one believes he is in and of the light, while at the same time he continues to indulge in the sloth of his own human ignorance. Beloved ones, it is not the mere repetition of decrees. And this is a fallacy in itself. If I decree long and hard enough, I must arrive. This is the fallacy also of the Christian who says, if I will believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, I will be saved. There are some entertaining, ridiculous, and heinous psychic concepts who have been on the path for many years, who have tumbled in the astral plane and think they are of all men most knowledgeable. They will write to the messenger to guarantee their psychic interpretations of life as being out of the mouth of the master by assuring the messenger that they decree anywhere from 1 to 12 hours a day, thinking that if they decree 8 hours or 10 hours a day, they must be right. Beloved, there are many paths of folly and illusion. And this is why, even immersed in the teaching itself, only a few will enter in. This is not a game of hopscotch, where 1, 2, 3, hop, and you are in the etheric retreats, and next you are resurrected, and next you are ascended. Life is not so, beloved. And contrary to what you may have thought, you do require self-mastery and mastery of the sacred fire to arrive at the gate. This is not a somber path. It is a joy-filled one unto those who are self-centered, and that self is the capital S, self-centered, and who hear our words and pray to understand and embody their meaning. but it is not a gay path. It is not a superfluous or superficial path. Thus it is a path of happy hearts, who are happy because they know the I am that I am within the heart. And they have sought after and gained the sensitivity to know when that spirit has fled from them, because their actions are an offense to the spirit. Yes, it is possible to offend the spirit, but not by the human foibles and mistakes that so many line up according to rules. The law may overlook much, even when all others point the finger at an individual. But I will tell you what the law will never overlook. It will never overlook the withholding of love from my brother. It will never overlook the impure heart. The impure heart will never enter in. It will not overlook the liar and the lie. It will not overlook those who see a brother's need, who see him toiling in the day and the night and then walk away to their own pleasure and conceit. The law will never overlook one who separates himself from a path that is clearly outlined. The law will not overlook one who elevates himself in spiritual pride and soon falls prey to the psychic. The law will never overlook one who does not receive any of these little children as the Christ in arm. The law will never overlook these people who now will rob or try to grab a child, wreck his mind to make him a slave, use him in his sexual dreams, and then butcher him. It is being done, my friends, and it's time for us to rise up and say, enough is enough of this satanic stuff that's going wholesale everywhere. He continues, there are sins that can be brushed aside by the hand of God. And then there are sins that are not forgiven until it is forgiven and forsaken. And in some cases, never. Beloved hearts, it is the violation of the flame of life in any form, failure to feed my sheep when they are hungry and naked and in need, failure to be sensitive to world pain and world need, taking instead the teaching exclusively unto one's private life and development. Beloved hearts, this is a path of love. It is not human love. It is the love of the presence that must be experienced, and then it will flood from you unerringly to the children of the light. And it will come from you in the sternness of the ruby ray, in the rebuke whether of the righteous or the unrighteous when they go out of the way of life and venture into the outer courts of death. Blessed hearts, the Christed one attuned to God does not fail to give his life to save the soul that is lost who comes to his attention. He does not turn his back. He does not count the cost. The law does not overlook those who take the light and, as James said, consume it on their lust. Let us then enter the new year, desiring to know the heart of Portia the goddess of justice. And for this reason I counsel you that you deal justly with your God and not be so concerned about human justice or a sense of injustice as to how you have been maltreated or how you deserve more of this or that. And we see this so much in our society today. We have all kinds of excuses. Therefore, you owe me this or you owe us that, and we should be able to do this because we have suffered so. You see it at every hand. It's a manipulation. And we need to understand it and work with it. I desire to have, and I shall so train any jailer who knocks on my door, to have conscious and continuous contact with your mighty I Am presence, and to have it whether conscious or unconscious in the physical body and at the change called death. When you can reach that point, there is safety in your life and life stream. There is safety for come what may. Blessed ones, you have heard it said that at the point of the balance of 51% of your karma, there is the opportunity for the ascension. And you have heard it said that the reason this is decreed by the lords of karma, that you may balance the remaining 49% from the ascended state, is that following the balancing of 51%, there is the initiation of the soul's descent into death and hell and to the astral plane. And few have returned from that descent. So alarming was this condition, especially in the Western world, to the lords of karma, that this dispensation was proposed and granted by the cosmic council. Beloved hearts, strange as it may seem for the chelas of the will of God, it is not so difficult to reach that point of 51% balance, given that this is a son or daughter of God who has diligently striven lifetime after lifetime. Thus, it is important to be conscious when one is beyond that mark. For there are some who are descending into the astral plane to take those initiations, beloved, beyond that point, have in fact succumbed to the suicide of a spiritual magnitude or taken the left-handed path. How can this be? It is because of the strong delusion of hell itself and all of its hordes that prey upon the untransmuted substance and the bedrock of the dweller on the threshold that does not easily give way to the sweeping winds of the Holy Spirit that have blown away the lesser debris. One cannot emphasize enough to one's chelas the intensity of this delusion, nor the difficulty of the choices of right and wrong, for they seem to converse at a razor's edge where the wrong answer seems right and the right seems wrong, or both seem correct. Blessed ones, happy is the man who arrives at that point of the balance of karma, who has also diligently pursued self-mastery. You have heard it said that to balance karma does not necessarily make for attainment. And at a certain point this is not true, but at early stages you may literally have so much devotion to the violet flame and service that you may balance karma without attention to the detail of accompanying self-mastery. The governing of those conditions which are easy to overlook especially when there is not a messenger or a guru present to point them out to you. So, beloved, pray for vision, for enlightenment, for purity of heart, for nothing can be hidden or withheld from the pure in heart. Contemplate then the mystery of one's fellows. The mystery of the purity of heart, guilelessness, spontaneous championing of the true cause of all one's fellows. Blessed ones, purity of heart is much, much more than form or mores. It is profound indeed. Let none construe any of my words as license to set aside the letter of the law. For the Spirit does not replace the letter, but it accompanies it as they go hand in hand. But let all construe from my words that the letter of the law will never suffice for entering in. For this entering in is achieved by a grid which is filled with light, emanating from your Christ consciousness by you through the living Spirit of the law. Thus, beloved, many have gathered, desiring to be here for what they consider to be a momentous occasion. And so it is. But I tell you, beloved, the most momentous occasion of all that is recorded in all of cosmos is the moment when the soul, transfused, transported, transformed, is infilled with the I Am presence and does never separate out again, for the fusion is one. And I believe that spells it out better than anything that I have heard. That whole business of your I Am presence and your soul must be so fused together that they are the same. If you would desire to know of an example of one who has walked the earth fused in the heart of the I Am presence, a guileless one of honor and love for all, one meek and humble who could know pain and be subject to his own human foibles, mistakes. If you would desire to understand the profile of one fused to the presence before the hour of parting, I direct your hearts then to the man they called Mark Prophet. You can know him better in his voice, which modulated with the voice of the presence. Never have you heard a voice so close to your I Am presence as the voice of Mark. Upon the decibels of sound you could transverse that voice to the heart of your own mighty beloved. Contrast it to the shrill sounds and voices strident in the earth, and you will have a comparison. Blessed ones, I return you to the point of the mark and of the point of his origin. How he came through those lifetimes and came to this one, bearing yet a heavy burden of karma, the burden of the planet itself, and how through the heart of Mother Mary he transcended all, not to present to you the perfect computerized man, impeccable in all his ways, but to present to you, beloved, the one gift and the one example, purity of heart. Entering by the door of the purity of his heart, you can rise to the power and the attainment that was wrought by that purity. I would suggest then that as the discipline of Darjeeling Those coming to the mystery school beginning at midnight, know that we shall begin with the purification of the heart. For our path is the path of the pure in heart, who see God through the sacred heart of Jesus and his saints. I seal you with my awareness of your individual Christhood. I seal you, but you must retain the seal and strive to know that Christhood which I am beholding with Mother Mary in the diamond heart of life, not death. The Spirit of the Great White Brotherhood saluteth thee. We are real. So must you strive to be. I am Moria of the first ray. Come where I am, if you dare. Oh, beloved Moria, our love cannot contain what we feel, for it is so great, and we thank you for this magnanimous word that stretches our consciousness, deepens our faith and our trust, and allows us to become more aware of where we are going and how we are going to get there. Continue to speak to us, for we dare come to be your Chela. We dare come into your presence. Give us strength and the faith to do so, for we do ask it in your holy name, my beloved Guru, Moria El.